Britain's Supreme Court ruled this week that women legally exist, and it's fair to say that the mentally ill gender goblin community isn't taking it too well. Trans activists protested in London to convince everyone they're not a threat to women by defacing statues of women and threatening to kill women. I'll show you the craziest ones in a moment. I'm sure the police are about to send them down for 31 months in jail like Southport tweeter Lucy Connolly. I mean, we're not in a two-tier justice system, are we? And a lot of lefties are acting like it's the rise of the Fourth Reich. I thought maybe a lot of my friends on Facebook just didn't understand what the ruling meant. But no, all woke lefty people think that lesbians should not only be forced to accept males into their groups and spaces, but that the lesbians are bigots for wanting to keep spaces female only and should be punished for this. These are interesting times. Of course, I've got to be careful not to anger trans women because they have the strength and aggression of a man with the emotional instability and poor grasp on logic of a woman. But for the sensible people on the left, if there are any left, here's a breakdown of the hysterical claims made by the trans activists. We are being erased. No, you're not. Trans women still exist. You're just legally not women. In fact, you know who was being erased by trans ideology? Gay people. Staff at the Tavistock Gender Clinic even joked that there would be no gay people left, and what they were doing was conversion therapy for gay children. We just want to be seen. Don't worry, Susan, you're 6'4" and you have hands like shovels and you're dressed like a Japanese schoolgirl. Everyone can see you. Your motive is far right. Well, it's interesting that standing up for gays and women is now considered far right. It's great PR for the far right, to be honest, but there's so much more to the far right than just gay rights and women's rights. Also, if we're going to talk about motives, what are your motives for wanting drag queens in schools and males in women's toilets? Trans rights are human rights. Your human rights haven't been affected. You still have all the human rights everyone else does. But have a look at the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There's nothing on there saying it's the human right of any midlife crisis bloke to play on an under-12s girls netball team. In fact, one of the basic human rights is freedom of association, which some trans-identifying males are impinging on by insisting that they're allowed into lesbian spaces and female spaces, like Roxanne Tickle. We're being victimised. You're not being victimised. In fact, this is an extremely dangerous narrative. This idea that you're uniquely singled out and persecuted just because you can't go and wank in the women's toilets or lift weights in the Olympics, giving an entire group that contains a high proportion of mentally ill people full of mood-changing hormones a victim complex is dangerous because it manifests in violence such as the school shooting carried out by a transgender that was swiftly covered up by the authorities. Trans women are women. Well, they're not really, are they? Otherwise they wouldn't be called trans women. Saying biological males magically transform into women by identifying as women is a religious belief similar to transubstantiation in Catholicism, the idea that the priest magically turns the wine and wafer into the literal blood and body of Christ, and you're free to believe it, but you can't impose your religious beliefs on other people. Trans people are the most marginalised group in the world. Oh really? Well, how come they're the only people we ever seem to hear from? If you're so marginalised, how come every cabal comedian can go up on stage and say, I'm Jemima Winklecock and I'm non-binary genderqueer and get a round of applause?
I'm very gay, but I am also trans. If you were wondering where my breasts went, yeah, the garbage. They are in the garbage. They don't let you keep those. Yeah, I'm a trans man. I came out about a year ago. I'm 4 months post-op for my top surgery, and on Monday I start testosterone. So it's a very exciting time for me. My full identity is I am non-binary trans mask.
You're just full of hate. My emotional state has no effect on the validity of rational debate. This is all just about a tiny proportion of people. Oh, so we have to ignore it then? Andrew Tate is a tiny proportion of people. In fact, there's only one of him, but you fannies never shut up about him. Well, what about this convincing trans man? Do you think he should have to use the women's toilets? No, obviously, he'll be fine. Trans men have never presented a threat to men, and this person you've shown looks like their chosen gender, so nobody cares. But this tiny sliver fringe case isn't representative of the people we're talking about. Look at Roxanne Tickle. He says he's a woman, so he has to be allowed into women's spaces, even when the women expressly say, we don't want any males in our spaces. Honestly, some of these people want me to recognise them as their gender, but they haven't put any effort into being that gender. Why am I having to do their transition in my head? It's not my transition. At least meet me halfway. This is good for genuine trans women. It will weed out the freaks and the freeloaders who are hijacking and exploiting the system. Now let's look at some of the craziest responses from the protest. Here's a placard with fake bullet holes and the legend, I will make you listen. Seems like a reasonable argument. Here's someone urging people to shit on the head of another TERF. It's so ladylike. Are you a transphobe? Why not try a DIY lobotomy? Yeah, encourage people to kill themselves, that's nice. Here's a sign plonked on a baby saying babies for trans rights, although to be fair, it's not the worst thing a gender ideologist has done to a child too young to consent. All transphobes are unlovable cowards. For people who complain about hate, there doesn't seem to be much love sloshing around. You're just jealous that my dick's bigger than your boyfriend's. I mean, if I was trying to make the case that I'm just like a real woman, I maybe wouldn't draw attention to the girth of my penis. The only good turf is a dead turf. That seems like an explicit call for violence against feminists. In the wake of the Southport riots, loads of people were arrested for tweets that seemed a lot less inflammatory than this. Bring back witch burning. This is calling for a return to the killing of women as witches. From the 14th century until about 1650, Europeans executed between 200,000 and 500,000 witches, or mostly female, which is widely condemned as a horrific gender-based genocide, but not if you're a kind and tolerant lefty apparently. And when I personally told an angry trans rights activist that I am in fact a trans woman, I was told that I actually don't identify as a woman and should be killed. I get this a lot from lefties. They say I can't be a genuine trans woman, but they can't explain why I'm not a genuine trans woman. Here's a trans activist, Sophie Molly, making some reasonable points in a calm and rational manner.
After this protest, I'm going to use a woman's toilet. Then I'm going to use another woman's toilet. Fuck you, JK Rowling. You'll never stop me from peeing. The only person that's shite is you. So we should all take a shite on you. You heinous cretin old bitch. Anyway, this is a public space. There's probably children here, so pardon my manners. But who gives a shit? Our rights are under attack, right? There is no civility when it comes to your human rights being demolished. We must take back the streets, march every single day, stand outside the government, the buildings of power. We must stand there. We must stand there in solidarity and not leave. We must go into the toilets in numbers and say, we are here, we are queer, we will never disappear. We are here, we are queer, we will never disappear. We are here, we are queer, we will never disappear. We are here, we are queer, we will never disappear. Tell me what solidarity looks like. Thank you. This is what solidarity looks like. Right here, right now.
Interestingly, Scottish Green Party politician Maggie Chapman is in the background.
One struggle, one fight, Palestine trans rights. One struggle, one fight. 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 Palestine trans rights.
What on earth has the Middle East got to do with it?
So you're a male transitioning to
Yes.
a woman. So some people watching this might say, why can't you just do what you do, and people respect that and you have freedom to do that, nobody has a problem with it, but why can't you just use the men's toilets? Why do you want to share a toilet with women?
Because it makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel like whoever I want to be, I can identify with that gender.
Why is a man's comfort more important than women's comfort? I love pissing on TERFs. And of course they defaced a statue of feminist Millicent Fawcett, who campaigned for women's rights, because nothing says we're women and we stand for women's rights more than defacing a statue of a feminist. Thanks for listening, and don't share this with your friends. Most people are still too terrified of being called a far-right bigot to face reality. And if you want to see all my stuff and get access to exclusive content, you can join a growing community of the only sane people left in the West on my Patreon. There's a link below. Okay, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye.